Now, let's go to our mailbox, politicalplatform@yahoo.com. Now, who is talking to us this morning?
Hello and welcome to this segment. I am Shade Ologbodion.
My name is Etenikan Akipu. Good morning.
All right, we will begin this morning with this mail coming from Henry Ora in Jos Plateau State. He titles this, Federal Government and ASUU Face-Off. The mail reads, the federal government yesterday shifted the compulsory resumption of universities, saying it was because of Professor Iyayi's burial. But why all this rigmarole? Why can't the government and ASUU come out and resolve their issues amicably, rather than engaging in this topsy-turvy affair? The federal government had also made certain claims and promises, but the only way they can fulfill this promise is by showing commitment, because ASUU do not trust the federal government anymore. It is unfortunate that our education sector is in this comatose and needs total overhaul.
And this mail coming from Chibuzo Onochie, who is writing to us from Lagos State, still boils down on the ASUU strike, and it starts by saying, I believe there are fundamental problems in our university system, but these problems were not caused by funding alone. Even if we put all the money we have in the universities, we will have huge problems. The university question is the same with Nigeria question. It goes beyond money. I would appreciate if ASUU would tell Nigerians the real focus of their struggle, which is the welfare of her members, and leave out the bigger question of well-being of the universities.
And reacting to APC's comment on ASUU strike, Ferdinand Ushie titles this, in Ikeja, Lagos, titles this hypocrisy of the opposition party. He goes further to say, I heard the press conference of APC over ASUU and the federal government face-off. They made mention of the president being autocratic. I want to take them to what happened between Governor Fashola and striking medical doctors in Lagos State, where he sacked the striking doctors. It took the intervention of Tinubu and Lai Mohammed for those doctors to be reinstated. What is APC trying to portray? Federal government is the employer and it can hire and fire. The lecturers contribute about 40% of current quality of our education system decay. About 80% of lecturers collect money from students to pass exams. We all know what is happening in the system. They don't have moral justification to their claims.
And in the proposed single tenure, Progress Efe is writing to us from Edo State, and the mail reads, the reasons given by Senator Ekweremadu in advocating for a single tenure for our executive office holders sounds good, but taking a deeper look will reveal that it will not solve our succession crisis in Nigeria. What we need is a credible, free, and fair means of recruiting leaders into executive offices. Remuneration of public offices should be made less attractive, and Nigerians should get more involved in democracy and governance.
Romeo Accra in Port Harcourt, River State, titles this a blessing in disguise. He goes further to say, Governor Adams deserves commendation, and I give kudos to him for personally apologizing to the widow he had earlier treated wrongly. It takes a good leader, a true servant of the people, and a man of humble spirit to do what he has done. It's not easy to admit one's fault, especially when you are in position of authority.
And this is where we wrap it up on the mail segment. Do keep sending us your mails with your name and where you're writing us from to politicalplatform@yahoo.com.
Thank you very much, and we want to encourage you to indeed write to us, make it brief, and go straight to the point. Now, we talked about the Adams Oshomole action yesterday. It was really humbling, and those who were actually angry, you could actually feel the anger in the voices of, even when you don't see them, their write-ups and the way they talked about it. Everybody was, they were all angry that Adams Oshomole could. But when he came down to the level of saying, look, but some person said it was the exigencies. He didn't just do it because he's Adams Oshomole, because they said the original Adams Oshomole will repeat what he had done before, and that it was the political exigencies that made him to quickly eat his pie. And remember that he needed not to be angry, standing like a colonial police to talk down on a widow.
Like that man who used to interpret in Ichoku that usual.
But it was very humbling, and we appreciated that Adams Oshomole was able to come down to say, look, beyond that, he also made what we call reparations for his deed. Somebody is asking, where the 2 million naira that he gave, was it from security vote? Is it from Adams Oshomole himself? If it's from Adams Oshomole, how much is Adams' salaries? How did he get the 2 million naira to give to Adams? Where the job he could offer I thought that they would ask the woman to begin to assemble and gather and walk around the widows in Edo State because she feels it, she knows it, and she saw the other side of the governor. But he says it should help on monitoring those who are also on the street trading, which is also good. She got a job, she got some scholarship for the children.
What will she do when she monitors them? To arrest them?
The widows?
Yeah, the widows.
No, to look at the plight of the widows, and she should have a fund to assist the widows who can.
Or to inform the task force where to go and arrest them.
Not at all. Ohira, what Oshomole has done, I commend. But if you look at it, really didn't have a choice because the PDP had already cashed in on it because of the hue by the social media. It had become imperative that he did something because if he didn't, he would be the loser ultimately, and his party too.
Uju, if you ask me, I think Oshomole successfully drew the carpet under the rug of
yes, he did, but then he didn't have a choice.
But I think this is just an isolated incident. If you look at the country as a whole, the lack of social security, we have millions of widows with children running into the street trying to survive on some of these menial tradings they do. If you look at this incident, what can really the society do in terms of policy and widow emancipation in the future?
Mustafa, you know that our brother governors in the brothers, the Oshomole's brother governors in the north, they have said, okay, we cannot provide you all. We need to give you a man. And they say all the widows who are still young enough to get married, we will recruit men for you. We'll pay them 100,000. And then you come and marry. The question we have asked on this platform is, how long does that marriage also last? I think the last of the state that did this is it Sokoto State or Zamfara State?
No, there are only two states that have anything to do with this marriage thing.
What we have is that Kano, Zamfara, and I think one other state have also seen. I think we should also commend them for doing something. But it's just a question of what they are doing.
Fixing marriage.
Yeah, what are they doing? What they are doing, is it good enough? Is it good enough to say 900 women who are either widowed or they are single mothers, that they need to be under men, and men who want to marry them
and get their support
and come forward. And in Kano, I remember vividly, they gave about 100,000 naira to the men who are willing to take them in. And we ask, is this not even further dehumanizing these women we are talking about? But the government says it is one social problem they have, and this is the quick fix that they have for it. And in addition to giving support to the men to marry, they also assist the women to get some money to begin a trade so that they can also be...
They actually train them in tailoring, fisheries, and poultry farming, and they graduated a lot of them. It's actually very successful. Marriage is a good thing, but you can also imagine a society where you have a lot of unmarried women, and of course
I think the fate of that widow in Edo State typifies what is happening to ordinary Nigerian. When figures come out, data come out, and we hear that 67% of Nigerians live on less than $200 per day, which is just a little above 300 naira. We don't actually take the message home. Now, if you had taken a look at the wares the woman was displaying, maybe she was even the bourgeois street trader because she had some
she has quite a
huge wear. If you calculate the profit she'll take home at the end of the day, probably less than 1,000 naira, and she's the breadwinner of the family. Now, if you divide her income into into the number of people in her families, it throws up the plight of the ordinary Nigerian, the greater percentage of Nigerian who struggles on daily basis to feed themselves, who also struggle to determine where the next meal will come from. If they have breakfast, they are not sure of where the lunch will come from. But we in the cities will tend to lose sight of this very significant plight that our people are going through. Now, Mustafa, you mentioned about social welfare program. In advanced countries, countries where the economy is buoyant enough and they've practiced statehood for a long time, they have a system of accommodating those people that are indeed very poor. But what do we have in Nigeria? Except that woman who was fortunate enough, you drew my attention to a cartoon on the newspaper, one of the dailies, where some market women were pleading that their governor will do another round of inspection and come their way, and probably so that they will now their lot will be get better.
Reminds me of the man who was caught amongst women in the armed robbery in a bus, and they said they wanted to separate the men from the women. And they saw a man amongst the women, and they said, what are you doing here? He said that he's actually a woman. Even if you are seeing him like a man, it's actually because he's so weak. The women are stronger. Or the man the woman that asked the husband, the woman that raised up her hand and said she's a widow, and the husband said, why are you raising up your hand? I'm here. And he said, no, are you sure you are living?
Exactly. my plight is not better than that of widows.
He said, in taking a look at these issues, I will borrow the word of one of the persons who called into the our program this morning on radio, Fact Five, and he described it as political donut. What is worse about donut is not that it is small, but it also has a hole. And when you also, by the time you try to patch the hole, using the donut, you see that at the end of the day, it doesn't go anywhere. If you take a look, yes, I agree that Oshiomhole has done well in trying to eat the humble pie, but we must not over-glorify him because what he did in the first instance, and that is the problem with this country. Today, like we are crying that the power is not sufficient, no light, we seem to suffer from selective amnesia. If tomorrow we have light, I can tell you Nigerians will no longer remember that we passed through this route. Somebody will do the wrong thing, and the moment he just bring one small biscuit, we just begin to glorify him as if that is the way to go. He may have apologized, but when people begin to say that is a good leader, that is that, we begin to miss the point. Our leaders should not take us for granted, and when they, from our own commonwealth, pacify us, we just begin to dance like person who have never been to a disco hall. The fact is that leaders must be very, very responsible. Oshiomhole on that day was very, very irresponsible. And if he decides to account and pay for his irresponsibility, we must not over-glorify him.
The next morning show.
Busted.
Thank you very much for remaining with us on the platform. Now we zoom into the critical area of power supply. And I'm joined in the studio by Ambassador Gode Igali, and he's the Permanent Secretary in the Federal Ministry of Power. We are graciously very, very happy indeed to have him in the studios with us this morning. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me here.
He's joined by James Olotu. He's the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Niger Delta Power Holding Companies of Nigeria Limited. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
I'm honored.
I thought we were moving away from power holding. Why did you have your name Power Holding, PAC? But
I think we will prefer power release.
I hope you do.
We are releasing.
You don't hold power in the Niger Delta.
It's power release.
Where is your the catchment area?
No, we are the projects originally started from the Niger Delta area, and then moved from there to all across the country. Okay, so it doesn't really mean that Niger Delta, you are restricted to Niger Delta. No. Okay, let's come to the Permanent Secretary. Now, there are a lot of motions without movement in the power sector. If you ask the ordinary Nigerian, that is what they will tell you, and we don't pretend about it here. We have spent so much money on power supply to our generation, to distribute, and all that the federal government has been doing, from gas supply to the installation of power plants and everywhere. Yet we do not have power. Why? Thank you very much for having us here today. My colleague, Engineer Olotu, will later speak about the new integrated power projects all over the country, which may be part of what you mentioned, that we've been seeing a lot of motion because his organization has been carrying out the construction, and we've seen the recent commissioning of huge power plants all across the country. But for us as a ministry, looking at the whole sector in general, yes, there's a lot of activity. But like you know, the power sector is a sector that is all integrated. Until you see the bulb with light there, you'll not be able to appreciate how much work goes in.
Like Thomas.
Well, so a lot of amount of work goes in, value, a lot of money, a lot of valued hours and commitment and time.
How long are Nigerians going to wait?
Now, let me tell you, we are almost at the darkest point in the night. Dawn is almost in sight. What has happened is that from 2003 until now, we embarked on construction of huge projects, and like I said, Olotu will say a little bit more on them. But besides that, we've also taken policy measures we've seen that government is not the best manager of assets. The Nigerian private sector has shown itself to be very robust in terms of being able to manage assets, creativity, and also the managerial ability. We saw it.
This transition period,
yes,
between when the government was operating and now you have sold out into the
yes.
How long?
Now let me tell you.
Who is in charge now?
We're all in charge. Government is in terms of making policy. Government is in terms of giving guidance, direction, and regulation. But in the critical areas of distribution and generation, the private sector is in charge. But let me tell you, just give me a second.
Let us just quickly go to the private sector. Those ones who have taken over now.
Yes.
How much are you in charge, sir?
The private sector
yes.
bought about 60% of the existing infrastructure, and therefore makes them the majority shareholder.
Who is distributing light now? Who is transmitting light? Who is generating light?
As
we speak now.
The new companies are distributing light right now. And for those generation stations that have been taken over by them, they are the one generating
If I'm
power.
paying my bill, who takes my money?
The new companies, the private sector.
Because we were worried. It is true that when a man and a wife goes into the room, you may not know what happens, but at least some months after, you begin to see that the tummy is growing. And to that extent, you appreciate how much job the man has done
yes.
behind closed doors. It does appear that the womb of this whatever happened into the room seems not to be protruding, and that's why Nigerians are worried.
No,
At what point I would likely to expect
let me,
after 9 months some child will be delivered?
I like you said 9 months. After 9 months, a child will be delivered. This handing over took place around November 1.
Yes, first
just
of November.
A few days ago. You are too much in a hurry. Let the baby grow to its size before you can take delivery of it.
Oh, here, please, let me just take 1 second. You see, we like I was saying, the privatization was premised on the fact that our Nigerian private sector has shown the creativity, the ability to be able to manage these resources. We saw it in the banks, we saw it in telecommunications, we saw it in other sectors. Now that haven't happened, we've taken the bold step of now handing over to them. And I should say this, since we're on air, this process has been described as the most transparent privatization process ever.
It's the most elaborate too.
Elaborate in terms of scope, and they're transparent in terms of in all over the world now.
Financial, there has never been any privatization that has generated so much money. Some people say anywhere in the world.
Well, that I have to check that fact. But let me say, now we have handed over a month ago. These new investors have shown us, the new owners have shown us their investment plans in terms of bringing in, upgrading, modernization, and bringing in more value.
Because we don't have time, that's
yes.
why I asked the quick question.
Yes.
How long is this going to be? This transition period, this gestation period, how long is this going to be? The Nigerian have to want
well, to answer that more pointedly, maybe within the next 1 year, we'll see substantial change, substantial difference. Because Olotu, NIPP, the NIP projects on Engineer Olotu, have all just been completed, are now in the process of being completed. So they are bringing additional value, and the new owners themselves are bringing additional value.
Okay.
So we'll begin to see change in the system. In the next 6 months to 9 months, there will be considerable change in Nigeria.
Going back to what Mr. James Olotu said, a lot of Nigerians would not agree with you that they have to wait for a long time, that 1 month is not enough for us to see changes. If we are not seeing changes, why does the status quo not remain? Because at least we had a fairly good power supply before the Jinkos and the Discos took over. But what is happening right now? Before they said, what is happening now is that even the lights that used to be is no longer there. There is very, very poor power supply right now. It's worse than before they took over. So if we cannot have a better deal, why don't we have what was subsisting before they take over?
Let me try and give you a few explanations.
Yes, fast too, because our time is running out.
One, at the time the Discos and the Gencos were taking over, it was supposed to be that they were taking over capacities that are increasing. Unfortunately, NNPC, NGC, and the IOCs came up to tell the world that some of their pipeline infrastructure projects were blown up in the Niger Delta area. Now, these are the gas pipelines.
There are challenges.
There are challenges
you are trying to meet.
Exactly.
Let us go forward.
So
let us go forward, sir.
Right.
Let's go forward so that we can wrap up because we must go now.
Right.
Now, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Power,
Yes.
talking about Ambassador Gode Gali.
Yes.
You answered this question very pointedly.
Yes.
We said yesterday on this program that all you are doing is commissioning projects that does not deserve commissioning, and that what we have in Karo and Abuja here has been in existence, and since you press the button, you chose to come and press the button again, and that's what you are doing all over Nigeria. So can you please
what's the situation?
No, let me tell you, but I must say one word about the issue of gas. In the past 3-4 months, and Nigerians should know this, yes, we've had some very serious challenges. 16 holes have been put in the gas major trunk, bringing gas out of excavers into the gas power plants all around the country. For reasons which we cannot explain, some unscrupulous and very unpatriotic Nigerians go on blowing up these gas pipelines. We thought there were 6. These 6 were repaired, only for us to discover that there were another 10 underwater.
Those are the challenges.
So now this is a challenge we're trying to deal with. Now, number one, on the issue of the projects that we're commissioning, I think I would defer to Olotu because these are his projects. I mean, I can explain.
Okay. Are you commissioning projects that have been commissioned before?
Well, since you're asking this, we are not commissioning projects that are commissioned. Ohiria, let me explain. We have 2 levels of substations. First, we have the transmission substations. Then we have the distribution substations. Now, when the NIPP project came back online in 2007 and going to 2010, when most of the contracts were re-awarded, they awarded contracts for about 100 transmission substations around the country. These 100 are completed. In addition to them,
because we must go now.
In addition to them, and we all have to go to. In addition to them, there are listen to me. There are 295 substations.
You are not commissioning projects.
You see, what is happening is, for example, you have this big AIT complex. Then tomorrow you put up another complex besides it. You don't just leave it like that.
Okay, you have to commission it again.
You have to commission the new one so that the community, because in this case, people are vandalizing these things. The communities have to know. So that the people
will know that there's a new project.
Something has been done. Please work together to protect it. And these things cost billions of Nigerian naira. So now, don't be surprised. Tomorrow we are going. Yesterday we were in Mina. We are also in Dede, and we are also in.
You are still commissioning this.
We are going again all around the country.
Thank you
295 of them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Ambassador Gode Gali, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Federal Ministry of Power, and I also have James Olotu, is the Chief Executive Officer of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to Political Platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have stretched our time, and we just to the benefit of Nigerians anyway, and we'll come back tomorrow for more on Political Platform. My name is Okiria Agbonsuremi. Please do keep your head up and be responsible citizen.